The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host and producer, Kristina Liu, along with my co-host today, Otto Lohse and Paula Ewell. Paula is the Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Services for the Aging, and Otto, of course, is the face of Project Independence, longtime volunteer, and, of course, friend of the program. So welcome, guys. It's good to be back with everyone. Yes.
Beautiful
And
day in the neighborhood.
that's right. We're in nice, beautiful weather. That's right. And today we have longtime friend of the show, Greg Balbera, CSA, owner, certified senior advisor at Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk. And today's topic, we're going to talk about seniors and housekeeping, which is certainly something that comes up quite often in our world.
As always.
Yes,
Pleasure to be here.
it's nice to have you in person. We've been doing it on Zoom the past couple of times with you, Greg. So now we are all together in studio, which is really nice. So let's just dive in. Otto and I talk about this quite often, about the issue of housekeeping. And of course, there's varying degrees, as we get older. It's certainly something that's difficult, whether, your house, you have the laundries downstairs, we talk about all these different factors that kind of root into this. And of course, it gets, even more difficult when you have dementia piece involved in everything. So I'd love to dive in about how, if it's just common aging of housekeeping, and just what to do.
So what I would say is, I think, first of all, retiring, just getting older, perhaps downsizing, during these times, people's habits, routines can undergo big changes, right? People are used to going to work. They're on a routine. The alarm clock goes off at 5:30 every morning. They get on a certain train every morning, or they're taking the car on the LIE every morning into the city or wherever they're commuting. So when they retire, right, that's such a big change. People could be doing that, being in that routine, that almost Groundhog's Day environment for 40 or 50 years. So that in and of itself can just create stress. People are, when you become very routine oriented, now you're changing that routine. So the stress of that can certainly make a big impact on people's lives. In addition, as we get older, physical limitations, right? The ability, you mentioned here on Long Island, most houses have basements. In different parts of the country, there aren't basements. But here on Long Island, the majority of us, I believe, have basements. And oftentimes the laundry room is located in the basement. So putting dementia aside, when you have physical limitations, whether people have had hip replacements, knee replacements, arthritis obviously becomes very common in adults. So just getting up and down the stairs to the basement can be a challenge. Now throw in a laundry basket.
Oh God, I know. I'm stressed out thinking about doing it myself.
So we kind of solved that problem, to be honest about it, and that is that we have somebody pick the laundry up and deliver it back nice and folded.
Well, there's a solution. You got it.
And I look at it from a financial point of view. By the time you get through buying the soap and the bleach and everything else that goes along with it, and if you have a quantity of clothing that will last you for a few weeks, you don't have to have them come every day. Every 2 or 3 weeks they pick up your laundry. But anyhow, that's how we
and that's a definite possible solution for sure.
It costs money, but so does it cost money to buy.
And detergent's expensive.
detergents.
And it
That is.
reduces the risk of having to go up and down the
Yeah, we don't
steps
have
when
to
you
do
take
that.
that into consideration. Yeah.
Of course, another people solution is when people come to us, right home. Obviously, we have aides and companions, and one of the tasks that our aides will do for our clients is laundry, as well as other light cleaning. But so having the aide carry that laundry up and down the staircase, so the person doesn't have to put themselves at risk going up and down, can be a huge component of safety for that.
Before we go much further, maybe we ought to let people know that you are connected with Right at Home.
Yeah.
And give an overview of Right at Home
And what your services
and its
are.
basic function.
Sure, thank you.
What's it all
Again,
about?
so my wife Eileen and I own Right at Home. Right at Home, we're the third largest in-home care and assistance company in the nation. Eileen and I have owned and operated our offices, which are located in Plainview, Huntington, and Smithtown, for 11 years now. So we're a licensed home care agency with the New York State Department of Health. So what that means is all of our aides are legal. Everything we do is on the books. All the aides are bonded and insured. So God forbid if an aide were to get hurt working in the home with a client, if they file a workers' comp claim, which can generally be several $100,000, that claim would be against us. We're insured, not the client that the aide is working for. Likewise, if an aide decides they don't want to work anymore after 4 years of COVID, everyone.
But they actually
Yeah,
work
yeah.
for right at
They
home.
work, yes, they're our
Yes,
employee.
your
They're not
employees.
independent
Oh,
contractors.
okay.
Right.
Exactly.
Which is
Um,
important, I
That's
think.
really
Absolutely.
important.
And they're all background checked, they're drug tested. We do that on an ongoing basis. We also have a full-time RN on staff as well as several per diem RNs. I have a full-time social worker on staff. So we are out in the field. We don't just send our aides out onto an island, as it were. My aides are in the field every day doing all different types of shifts from 4-hour shifts to 24/7 care, depending, and everything in between, depending upon the client's needs.
Do they speak different languages? Do you
We
have
do. We
aides
have
that-
we have aides that speak different languages. Obviously, we require that everybody speaks English
Okay,
for sure.
yeah.
That's not to say that some people don't have accents, because of course they
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
But yes, everybody speaks English. But we have aides that speak Italian, Creole, Russian,
That's good. Yeah.
Spanish. Quite a few different languages,
Okay.
and that's important because
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
obviously a
They'll ask
diverse
us that.
Yeah, especially in this
component here
area.
in this
Absolutely.
area for sure. And then as far as the tasks that our aides perform for clients, safety supervision, fall prevention, wander prevention. I know we're going to touch on dementia and hoarding. So dementia is a big component of the people that we are taking care of. So they also help with personal care, so bathing, toileting, dressing, doing the laundry, preparing meals, med reminders. My aides drive, so if a client needs to go to a doctor's appointment, physical therapy, they want to go food shopping, the pharmacy. There's a lot of great programs working for the
Yes.
Office of the Aging. I'm sure you know, right?
Yes.
There's different JCCs and senior centers that we take our clients to. A lot of the local libraries have great programming, not just for seniors, but a lot of specifically senior-oriented programming and book clubs. So my
Right.
aides will drive there.
So is that separate then? Is it like being able to drive different places? Is that like enhanced care?
So it's
or-
included in our
Okay.
kind of package
Okay.
of
That's good to
activities and
know.
tasks that
Yeah.
we provide. Sometimes it's a little bit more a la carte. Some clients need everything from
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we offer,
yeah.
and some clients are using just kind of a fraction or some of the items. It really depends on
What
so
the
we
need is.
we basically develop
Yeah.
a care plan for each and every individual. And as I was saying, we have a full-time RN on staff. She goes out and visits every client. My social worker also goes. We check up. We probably see every client at a minimum at least once a month.
Okay.
Depending upon
Again, their care
in
needs,
their
yeah.
care needs, we may be seeing them more often, or if they
Mhm.
have a change of condition, we're going out and seeing them
Mhm.
more often.
Yeah.
So very variable, but the fact that we're out there all the time, not only is that great for my clients because they're seeing it, we actually found it to be great for our caregivers because in home care, a
Oh,
lot of
sure.
times the aides come in, you meet them in your office, you
Right.
interview them, you onboard them. We do training there. We do a lot of in-service, but when they're in the field, you don't see them, or a lot of times a lot of agencies may not see them.
Yeah.
We have taken a different tack in that we are out in the field all the time. So the
great.
aides really feel connected to us as opposed to
Yeah.
kind of feeling like, yeah, they're out
You're on
on
your own. Yeah.
an island, Long Island as it were, but an
Mhm.
island. So
Yeah.
it's a very important part of what we do.
Yeah.
Well, one of the
Yeah.
things that I found, and we've
Mm.
talked in the past, but this time around again, I go to your website and people will not be able to read this, but there's a very in-depth review taken of the situation as far as the person who needs assistance. And when you look at this list, which I did, you don't think about a lot of these things.
Mhm.
And this kind of organizes what the needs are for that particular person, which is how I suspect you then
Correct.
come up with a plan.
Yes, I was talking about our need assessment worksheet. We have quite a
Yeah.
few different resources available on our website, but the need assessments is great because a lot of people, again, aren't thinking about or just aren't aware of all the
Right,
different
right.
things that
They don't
we
think
actually
about
can
it.
do.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of times people just think it's personal care,
Right,
bathing,
right.
toileting, and
That's it,
dressing, but
yeah.
it's so much more inclusive than just that,
Yeah.
even though that might be the most important component for some of our
Yeah.
clients.
Do
Now,
you
they
do a
could-
safety
people-
check of the home?
We
Does
do.
the aide or that? Yes.
Yep,
Is
we
that
absolutely-
like part of the initial?
Absolutely.
assessment?
As I mentioned, my nurse will do that, but also my social worker. That's definitely one
Okay.
of her key components. In that situation, we're going, are there loose rugs?
Right.
Sometimes people will
Steps,
have
yeah.
furniture, like, which can be beautiful, but if you have a senior who is having difficulty with mobility,
I know.
what are they going to do
Lifting
when
that
they're-
up. Oh,
if,
yeah.
if they're, especially if they're not using a walker or a cane, which
Right.
maybe they should be.
People
One of the
hold
things they
on.
would do is that, they're either holding onto a wall,
Yeah.
or next, they grab an armoire.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's down on
And
the
if they're
floor.
unsteady, an armoire
Yeah.
can very easily come down on top of a client. God
Yeah.
knows what's on that armoire, how
Mhm.
heavy it is.
Yeah.
So there's things like that. We talk about putting proper lighting in. As people age, we definitely encourage having night lights at night when people get up at night, oftentimes depending upon what medicines they're on
Right.
or the level of dementia they have on. That's when they can be at their most confused. So
Right.
getting up at night, just getting out of bed to go to a bathroom, which can be a mere, 10 or 15 steps away,
Yeah.
can be the most difficult 10 or
Right.
15 steps
Yeah.
a person takes in the
Right.
entire
Especially if
day.
it's dark.
So
Yeah.
having a night light, both, between the bathroom and the bedroom, and then one in the bathroom, because that
Yeah.
floor can be slippery.
Yeah.
So those are
Okay.
all, not
Quite a
all, but those are
basic.
definitely a lot of the things that, we right at home are looking at all the time, and making.
Yeah, because it's
suggestions.
these preventative measures that we're constantly talking about on the show,
Mhm.
and how these little things, like putting in the night lights, I mean, can make a market difference, so it's really just so your website is great too. So I'd love for you to give your website's address and your phone number as
Sure.
well.
So our phone number in Nassau is 516-719-5999. In Suffolk, it's 631-352-0022. And our website is www.rightathomeli.com, and that's RIGHTATHOMELI.com.
Now, on that website, things like this are on there, so people, even if you're just in the kind of thinking stage, I think, an
Yes,
excellent.
Yeah, we have a lot
document.
of resource guides, the need assessment, the
Yeah.
fall
Yeah.
risk tool. We also have, we probably have several hundred blogs talking about all types of different topics, which I know
Yeah.
Kristina sees a lot of.
They're the best. And I
Yeah.
have to, I'll give just a sidebar. I mean, Greg's articles are so great. They're so timely. A lot of times we'll have it in our Pioneer newsletter too. And it's such a variety. So I really encourage people, if you have access to, the website, or you can always call us, we could certainly print out something for you, but it's really a great resource and very easy to navigate, which is nice.
One of the areas that you mentioned, the idea that somebody should either be using a cane or a walker or whatever. And a lot of times the people around them know that, but it's very difficult to convince the person who needs to use those things.
Absolutely.
And
Giving up one's independence, right? Every
Yeah.
little thing that we do, which can be
Piece.
kind of taken as that's going to
One
reduce
more
my
loss.
independence
Yeah.
versus the
control
trade-off
Yeah.
of,
over my
of the
life.
safety
Yeah.
becomes
Yeah.
a big thing. And then when you throw in dementia, so, if someone is really starting to progress down that dementia trail,
Mhm.
they just may not remember that they need to use a walker or a
Mhm.
cane every day of this, just because
Yeah.
the way the brain works, because
Yeah.
they have the long-term memory oftentimes, but it's the short-term. So if it's been a recent situation, again, maybe they had a knee replacement or they broke a leg or whatever has happened to them physically, they just don't remember that they need to use that walker or cane or wheelchair, sometimes that creates a lot of situations that can, really, mushroom into worse situations.
that's a whole world right there, is dealing with people with dementia.
Yep.
For their sake.
Yeah.
No, it certainly makes things, more complicated. So before we get into the housekeeping stuff with the process, so if someone was interested in Right at Home, they would give you a call and then a social worker gets sent out. How does this
Yeah,
all?
so we take calls from prospective clients all the time, spouses, children, friends, nieces, nephews, grandchildren. It could really be anyone. Oftentimes also social workers
Mhm.
or elder care attorneys that are working with, with
The
their, with their
guardians.
clients. So a lot of time that initial phone call generally will happen between that person and either myself or my wife Eileen, or oftentimes also our social worker Vicky in our office, where we're asking some probing questions, not just some yes or no questions.
Right.
We really want to let the people speak, because that kind of helps to surface what the issues are. Oftentimes people don't even realize the depths of the issues that they're having. Also, oftentimes they're navigating family issues. Sometimes children don't know, there could be multiple children. They don't always agree in where mom or dad is in a particular dementia journey or a Parkinson's situation or any health journey, or they just don't want to. Some people,
Could be in denial.
people are in denial.
Yeah.
Some people are happy to spend, they want their parents to spend their own money on care because that's what they saved it for. Sometimes you get some children who are like, they don't want to see their inheritance
Right.
go down what they would consider to go down the drain,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and are willing to kind of put their parents at risk. So we have those
Yes,
types of
it's
folks.
it's
Yeah.
a complicated
Exactly.
stuff.
So we have that initial conversation, and then oftentimes, then we go out into the field and we'll meet them. Oftentimes we're meeting people at a hospital or rehab because that's where they are right now
Mhm.
before they come home. And they're
Oh,
they're looking to get
Yeah.
care, but in place. They've never had care, but now they're coming home in
And
a
they need it
whole
right
different
away.
situation, and they
Yeah.
need it right away. I often
Yeah.
say our situation is so different. I kind of compare it to car shopping. Like if your car lease is going to expire in 3 months, you're like, okay, this week I'm going to go look at a Volvo. Next week I'll go look
Yeah.
at the Jeep, and the week after that I'm going to go look at a Bronco, and then I'm going to think about it. I'm going to make a decision. I would say that 98% of the time when people call me, it's okay. I need help
panic
now.
today,
Yeah. Yeah.
tomorrow at the
Right.
latest, and I need to
Right.
get things
Right.
going in it. So that's just such a different level of situation
Yeah.
and a level of stress. But
Could they call 7 days a week? Like if someone's finding out on a Friday that they're being discharged this afternoon, and we know that happens
Yes.
kind of frequently.
great question.
Are they able to call
Yes,
Friday,
we're-
Saturday?
Yeah, we have, my office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 7
Okay.
days a week.
Oh,
But
7 days a week.
7 days a week, but we always have on-call.
Okay.
So when my physical doors close, I have an on-call person. Plus I answer the phone. This is a 24/7 business for me.
Yeah, okay.
I think I've told Otto and Kristina before, the reason my wife and I got in this business is 3 of our grandparents and my wife's aunt had dementia. So
Yeah.
almost anything that the people we are dealing with are going through, we've experienced
Experienced
ourselves.
yourselves, yes.
Hospitals,
Yeah.
rehab,
Yeah.
Dementia, home care. So I answer the phone at night. I speak to
Yeah.
people on the weekends. People will always say to me, "Oh my God, it's Saturday at 2:30 in the
Right.
afternoon. I can't believe," again,
Yeah.
thankfully
No,
through the
but-
use of technology, I
But
can
that's
forward
very
my,
common being
Mhm.
discharged on Fridays.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's- it's
yeah.
just-
And then it's
Yep.
a panic.
Really
right?
a
So-
And you get a
panic, yeah.
human being.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's always
Yeah.
an interesting thing.
No, absolutely. And now with do you take insurance or?
Yes, so we're a private agency, but we work with all different types of long-term care insurance, catastrophic care insurance. We have a lot of VA clients. We're a huge provider to the VA here on Long
Oh,
Island.
that's really
So
nice.
yes. that is-
Okay.
Well, after the break, Paula, Otto, and I will continue talking about what's going on with Right at Home. We're going to dive into, of course, the housekeeping issues and the hoarding and dementia, which is extremely heavy, complicated stuff. We're speaking with Greg Balbera, owner certified senior advisor, Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk, about seniors and housekeeping.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Liu, along with my co-hosts today, Paula Ewell and Otto Lohse. We will continue talking with Greg Balbera, CSA, owner certified senior advisor, Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk, about seniors and housekeeping, and his organization, Right at Home. So let's jump back in. Otto, I know you had some questions.
Yeah, well, to me, this is, most families eventually get involved with something like this, either directly because you get older
Mhm.
or you're a mother, a daughter, or a son or whatever.
Mhm.
And that I think is a very important topic because most people are like, now, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So to get back to the chapter here,
Mhm.
you did your assessment and now somebody says, okay, this is what we think you need. Is that how?
Correct. We never tell anyone what they need. We have an open, frank conversation. We tell them what our different levels of service are, and we allow them to make the right choice. Now, sometimes people will need 24/7 care, but in their mind, they're in, as you said, off camera, that they're in denial.
Mhm.
So a lot of times we just have to kind of let certain things kind of play out, and then they're like, okay, you know what, we really do need 24/7 care. And sometimes just the level of need changes. I mean, the 2 biggest diseases that we really deal with are both our dementia, primarily Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And unfortunately, those are progressive diseases. So oftentimes people will start with us at our minimum level of care, which is 3 days a week for 4 hours. But as that disease progresses over a number of years, those days and hours, those needs will definitely change, unfortunately. So, it could start 3 days, 4 hours, and in 3, 4, 5 years, we could be looking at a client who is now a 24/7 client. And as you also mentioned before, long-term care, many of our clients have long-term care policies. So we help all of our clients really kind of understand and help navigate that long-term care process. And for many people, that opens their eyes that, hey, maybe this is something I need to look at and,
Well, is there
purchase for
something
myself.
that, as a person who has long-term care insurance, that you should really be looking at to find out, am I covered for something like this?
So long-term care insurance, I always like to explain is that it's kind of like life insurance, but it's specifically generally for either for home care or to pay for something like assisted living. Not every long-term care policy will pay for assisted living. It will always pay for home care. Some policies, and every policy is different, but some policies will pay for assisted living. So then it comes down to what that person wants. Do they want to stay at home, or have they made a decision that they would be more comfortable or better suited for an assisted living
So
facility?
if you're in the market for long-term care insurance, you should really give serious thought to making sure that the home care portion of it is there.
Correct. And long-term care policies have changed dramatically since they first were offered 40 or 50 years ago. When they first came out 40 or 50 years ago, the average life expectancy was in the 60s for both male and female. So most insurance companies, the difference again between life insurance and long-term care insurance is that life insurance, at the end, someone always gets paid, a spouse, children, a charity. With long-term care insurance, they're use it or lose it policies, meaning if you don't use that policy and the person passes away, that policy just ceases to exist. So oftentimes people will call us and they're like, oh, well, my mom's 94 years old and she has a long-term care policy and she needs 24 hours. I'm like, well, now's the time.
Yeah,
She's
right, so
94.
use
Like
it,
you
right,
got to,
yeah.
you want to use
Yeah.
that policy
Yeah.
now, because if you don't,
Right.
God forbid, if and when she passes away, that policy ceases to, and there's no payoff at the end. But because people started living longer, better medicine, people started eating healthier, exercising more. What we're finding is there are more people living longer, but not necessarily living better. They're living longer with
all these
diseases
chronic
and
issues,
chronic
yeah,
issues. So you definitely want to really kind of understand your policy. And things that people should understand about their policy is, first of all, is there an elimination period? So what that means is some long-term care policies, you can start to get paid today, but other policies have either a 30 or a 60 or a 90-day elimination period. It's kind of like a short-term disability thing where you have to pay out of pocket for those number of days before the policy kicks in and you start to get reimbursed. Every policy has a different daily benefit. It can be $100 a day. It could be $500 a day. Some policies have inflation riders, meaning I bought a policy or you bought a policy 30 years ago for $100 a day, which
22
today,
years ago.
I was like, to be exact.
$100 a day, 22 years ago might have provided, quite a few hours of care.
Now
Today, that
it's
doesn't
very
provide
different.
nearly as many hours of care. But if you had that inflation rider, the policy went up 3% a year every year. So that $100 a day policy could actually now be a $300 a day policy.
But one of the hookers with that, you get a letter every 2 years or whatever it is, and it tells you, okay, we're going to increase the benefit to blah, blah, but your premium's going to go up, blah, blah.
Correct.
So eventually you get to the point of no return where I say to myself, I'm not going to go beyond where I am because the premium,
Sure.
it's not a cheap thing.
Yeah. Well, there was a 20 or so year period where long-term care policy premiums did not go up.
Right.
Then a lot of these companies
Or
started
to
going out of
catch up,
business
yeah.
because so many people were actually
needing
putting the
them.
policies and
Right.
needing it, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden these insurance companies were losing money, so they had to start
Right.
to raise the premiums.
What's like the average cost?
I can give you a round
ballpark.
number on my
Yeah,
end, which
yeah.
is with two of us, it's like 400 or whatever a
A
month,
month.
Month.
Okay.
in that range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's been going on
Yeah.
for a long time, and I hope
Yeah.
to God I never use it,
Right. Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
might be
Right.
using it,
Right.
Yeah, it's just this is why having Greg's great. We can just ask him a bazillion questions about all different
Yeah.
topics.
I actually had
Yeah.
another quick
I
question.
mean, but
Greg,
these are
if you
all,
said-
I know unfortunately a lot of people, including my own end of my family, where these are real. You know, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
Oh,
not
yeah,
playing.
of course.
This is
yeah.
not
Absolutely.
theoretical stuff we're
Right.
talking about.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And again, there's a continuum of needs.
Yes.
Like,
right.
and it's the same with people who, are members in Project Independence. You can start in your 60s, 60 and older, where you may be the volunteer, you're going out, you're helping, Otto's just like, on his own separate pedestal altogether.
His own trajectory.
Yeah, but I'm not
you know,
really,
but-
you know,
but you
you
are.
say that. I think the people who really deserve a lot of credit are the ones who directly get involved with the people who are.
Mhm.
I'm not getting involved. I'm getting involved with you guys. That's easy.
But that's,
You know?
but then we get the service out. That's
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
difference.
Well,
But,
that's
but that
true.
continuum,
Yeah.
we could have somebody, and we've seen a lot of it where, like, when we first started our advisor, way back when, the people that came and they were healthy and doing their thing, and where we saw the gradual need where they needed more services. So, but now they're part of us. So, that continuum, as you watch it, you really can see how a company like yours is going to be so important, because you may need nothing to just a little bit to then an awful lot. But my other real quick question was, when the social worker goes in for the initial assessment of the home visit, do they look at like finances with the senior? Do they like say, oh, look, you may be eligible for this type of program, separately, or how does
Sure.
that work?
Yeah, we have a lot of conversations. So, finance conversations aren't always easy for
No,
certain
right.
people.
Mhm.
One of the big things that we try and find out is that person a vet? So more often
Right,
that's more
right.
on the male spectrum, but we do have
Some,
several
yeah.
female vets. But the services that the vets can get through the VA can be absolutely fabulous.
Fabulous, yeah.
Both from the healthcare portion. So they can go to the Northport VA, and
Right.
there's primary care physicians, there's specialists, there's social work. Obviously, a
Right.
lot of vets are dealing with depression, PTSD, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
psychological help there. But they also offer an HHA program, which we're part of. So the vets can get anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a week at no charge. We're
That's
one of the
great.
larger providers through the VA here on Long Island.
Okay.
So we always make people aware, like, we're
What were the hours?
8 to 16 hours of care a
8 to
week
16.
that the VA would pay for, that my agency would provide as basically as a subcontractor to.
Is
to the
that
VA.
also for a spouse?
So for the spouse, there's not a direct program. If the vet themselves is getting the HHA care and then something happens to the spouse, let's say the spouse tears the knee, has an
Mhm.
ACL injury, or breaks a hip, they do have a what's called a respite program. It's a little bit more
Mhm.
challenging to get.
Right.
But we have clients that we've helped navigate that process, sometimes dealing with government programs, as you
Yeah,
are
yeah,
well
yeah,
aware,
yeah.
not just this program, but almost
Right,
any
yes,
government program.
yes.
Knowing how to navigate
Yeah, that's
that
like
process
the hardest part of it.
is
right?
so
Yeah.
that's something, there's a lot of the free services and
Right, right.
add-ons that we bring to
Right.
the
Mhm.
table that
Yeah.
we can help people
Yeah, people are
navigate.
usually so surprised when we go in and in that beginning assessment, how much they may be eligible for,
Mhm.
that they had no idea. And some people still don't want it. There's still
No.
that sense of, I don't need this as some sort of charity, which it's not. They're entitled to
Well,
it. But
you raise a thing that I think is critical, and that is to have people like a resource like Project Independence that you can talk to and trust, because they're not selling anything to you. And I
Yeah.
feel the same way
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
that you don't have to go with Right at Home,
right,
but you can talk to Right at Home
right.
and get an appraisal as to what you think.
Absolutely.
might
I
be
tell people
needed.
all the time, people will call us, again, speaking to myself, my
Mhm.
wife. We help people in so many different ways. Sometimes people call us and they need a stair lift. They decide,
Right.
okay, if I have a stair lift at this time, I won't need your services. I put them in touch with a stair lift. Or sometimes
Right.
people call me and decide, I need this service or that service, or I need an elder care attorney. I put them in touch with elder care attorneys.
Right.
There's so many different services within like the senior network that I'm
Mhm.
constantly helping people out with.
It's wonderful.
So I'm always happy to do that. Any way I can help
A
someone,
great
I really
resource,
just want to,
yeah.
I just want to be a resource to people every day, and I feel like I am.
That's
You
wonderful.
certainly are.
So once this care plan is established, then you can say, okay, this is the finance part now, how this program can be paid
Mhm.
for. And then you get to the next stage where you say, okay, this is what I want. What happens now? How does that?
Sure. So once we basically determine what the care plan is going to be, we then create a schedule based upon, the feedback between us and the client. Again, 3 days, 4 hours a week, 4 hours per visit, or maybe they need 24/7, or maybe they need overnights, or
Mhm.
as we were discussing, maybe we have some clients that need sitter services. If a client is at a hospital or rehab and the patient has dementia, they may try and get out of bed at night when
Yeah.
there's less staff at night. So they will hire us basically to be kind of a family advocate, have
Yeah.
someone sit with their
That's
Yes.
really
with their
cute, yeah.
loved one at a hospital or rehab, so we can kind of provide those services. And the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
you
that's
know,
so critical, that those point, I mean, that's where you see a lot of problems
At
occurring.
hospitals.
Oh, yeah, well, not just at hospitals,
Like
but in
rehabs,
rehabs,
yeah.
but
Yeah, right.
when you're
Well,
going
anywhere that you're
between,
counting
you're
on,
going from the hospital to a rehab,
right.
that transition point.
Mhm.
A lot of things can go, a little screwy there.
Bad.
And it's scary. It's scary for the residents
Yeah, of
being
course.
transferred and knowing someone's going to be there to speak for them. And you hear that call bell, no one answers, or it's long. And
We
like
hear
in the
all-
last
like,
week,
yeah,
we've
all the
heard
time,
a bunch of
right.
different things.
Yeah.
And it's like, who can stay with me? Who can be there? So the sitter service is
Yeah, like
really
when you
important.
describe rehab, I think back of a lot of people that you're there for physical rehab, but maybe I have other problems.
There's a
Maybe I
lot
have
of
some
hours you're not
a
in
little bit of
rehab.
dementia, or
Yes.
and I'm not able to speak for myself, basically.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right.
You know,
And to get back to what you were just saying, so once the schedule and the care plan are, so now we send that aide for the first shift. When we send our aide for the first shift, my social worker or my nurse are going to be there at that first shift.
Mhm.
One, we want to introduce the caregiver to the client. As you can imagine, oftentimes for the client, this may be the first time they've ever had care in the home.
Right.
There's a level of where they feel like, okay, I'm giving up a certain level of independence.
Yeah.
First of all, we want them to know what the aide can actually do, what the care plan is, but we also want them to know, hey, listen, if you are still capable and independent to do certain things, we are going to allow you. We want you to do those things, because those activities are muscle memory.
Yeah,
If you
right.
start doing everything for a senior and they
That's
stop
not good.
doing it,
Right.
they'll stop doing everything. We
Right.
want to encourage them to do as much as they can possibly do. And then also, for the aide, they're going somewhere new for the first time also. And while, yes, they've been doing this for a while and they're comfortable in what they do, just meeting new people, being somewhere unfamiliar, showing them around the house. As you said, we've done a safety evaluation of the house, so we can kind of show them, hey, this house has a stair lift, or this is where the washer dryer is in the
Yeah.
basement.
Yeah.
This is, there's 3 bathrooms in the house, but this is the bathroom that has a shower chair, or
Mhm.
there's no lip that the person has to
Right,
stand
stand
over. So
over,
maybe
yeah.
even though the person has a shower in their in the main bedroom, they may prefer to use the shower that's in a different bedroom. So we want to
Right.
point out all those
Right,
different
yeah.
things. So we find it's very important to send our nurse or our social worker for that first visit, because it really kind of breaks down a lot of the walls and gets the relationship off on the right foot.
how difficult is it nowadays for you to, like, you have aides that actually work for right at home? How difficult, you keep reading how that area is tough, to get
To like
people to
recruit
do that
aides.
work.
Right.
Yeah, so I would say it's definitely a challenge, for all home care agencies, but also, the people we're hiring, we're competing also against rehabs, assisted living
Yeah, yeah.
facilities. But we've been doing this, as I said, for 11 years. We have aides that have been with us for 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, 7 years. We feel that we do a lot of things over and above for our aides, not on top of just what the pay is.
Yeah.
We offer a 401k, we offer profit
Yeah.
sharing. This
Mhm.
week, we're doing a back to school giveaway. We're giving all of our aides who come in, or some who, if they can't come in because they're on 24/7 cases, that we're dropping off at the clients' houses. We're dropping for their kids. We're dropping off
School
backpacks,
supplies.
school
Yeah.
That's really
supplies,
nice.
some snacks for that
Yeah.
for that
Yeah,
first week.
yeah.
Right.
We do raffles, like around the Super Bowl. We'll raffle off a 55-inch TV.
Yeah.
During Thanksgiving. We're raffling off turkeys and different food items. So we're doing stuff like that all the time. We also get a lot of word of mouth referrals. I think people love our aides, love working for us.
Yeah.
So, if Jane Doe refers Joan Smith
Yeah,
to come
yeah,
work for us, we give her a
yeah.
bonus. If that aide works for us
Yeah.
for 15
Yeah.
shifts or whatever it might be, we give them a bonus. And then if they stay with us for another 3 months, we give them another bonus. The greatest referral you can get is from either a current client
Yeah.
or a current
No, and it's
employee.
just the
Yeah.
consistency piece, I think, is so huge, with an
You start to
organization like this.
trust who you're working with.
Yeah, and I
That
know,
makes
and
a
like,
big
and if
difference.
someone get sick or can't make, I mean,
Pass the
my
baton.
grandpa was like, we were so fortunate that of our aides and stuff, but so many seniors, it's like, all right, well, the aide doesn't show up or something, and they're not part of an org. So it's like you're in this shuffle, as a family member trying to find it. So I think that it's such a comforting thing. I know for myself, when you had that kind of organization to
Yep.
be,
Yeah. Do
in your
you
corner.
drive the aides to the client's home? Like
We
how
have on
does-
occasion,
you have-
I've
you have
actually
to?
gone and picked up, but 98%
Is it
of my
mostly
age,
drive? Yeah, which is
Then
great.
they drive-
98% of my
okay.
age drive.
Oh, okay.
Because
That's
we
good.
service from Nassau out to Suffolk County. Obviously, the further away you get from Manhattan, the less and less the,
Right.
Yeah.
the transportation system,
Yeah,
trains,
yes.
buses.
Mhm.
So I
But
would
most
say
do
98,
drive.
most of them
Okay.
drive,
That's good.
absolutely. Because
Yeah.
and that's also a big component. A lot of our clients want an aid. As I said
Yeah.
earlier, who can drive them to a doctor's
Absolutely. No,
appointment,
that's
physical therapy,
we've
supermarket.
certainly
We've-
seen that request quite
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
that
I
they
mean,
want
I've been
someone
in
to-
the aid loop myself many times. My mother lived with us for 11 years, and during that period of time, progression was this way. And I can't run for politics because we've used people from the islands, if you will, not Long Island, in order to do things. But I didn't know about all these things at that point in time. So that's why I think this is great stuff.
After the break, we will continue talking with Greg Balbera, CSA, owner, certified senior advisor, right at home, Nassau, Suffolk. All about, it was seniors and housekeeping, but it's just all about seniors and all kind of senior issues. So, Greg, you're such a research, and we will certainly have more conversation when we get back.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Liu, and my co-hosts today are Paula Ewell and Otto Lohse. We're going to continue talking with Greg Balbera, CSA owner, certified senior advisor, right at home, Nassau, Suffolk, all about seniors. And we're going to talk about housekeeping and, of course, his organization and home care, which are just so, off air, we were talking about how important it really is, all these issues, because when you're in that situation, and we've all certainly been there to different degrees, you don't know what to do. So just knowing, where to go, the process, I think is such a service. So Otto, I know we'll pick it up with you. I know you had some follow-up questions for Greg.
Well, to me, the whole, first of all, this is a national program, right?
Right at home is a
It's
franchise, yeah, based out of
Right.
Omaha, Nebraska, been around since
So to me,
1995.
that offers a little bit of a strength in sense that the head group, if you will, has the exposure to all these
Mhm.
other franchisees, which together gain knowledge that can be shared, which if you're in an individual situation, you don't have that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can speak from being in a printing franchise many years ago with one that collapsed because it didn't have that national
Yeah.
good support. So I think that's important. Anyhow, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
Where I was going with this thing is that, okay, now you have all this and you have your aide who's perfect. We all know that that may not be true all the time. But you now end up, you want to know what's going on, and you're the son who lives in Jersey. You don't live in Long Island, so you're not directly connected with this whole thing. So now my understanding is that you now would communicate with some sort of document or whatever.
Sure, we communicate, again, every client is different. Some clients want daily communication. Some clients are like every 3 months or 6 months, a year, follow-up. So we're going to provide that level of communication based on what the client has really told us. And sometimes that's an evolving situation. Sometimes they tell it's one thing and it ends up being the other. But every day, every shift, when the caregiver is done with their shift,
Right.
they are completing a task list, bathing, toileting, dressing, meal preparation, med reminders. And at the end of that, they fill out a change of condition. So if a client is having a change of condition, caregiver may say, client is starting to lose weight, client seems more confused lately, client is more forgetful, more repetitive, whatever that is. When we get those notifications right away, first of all, we're following up with the with the caregiver. We want to get as much information as possible. At that point, either my social worker or my RN is getting involved. We're going to, if the client is capable, has the cognitive ability to have a conversation, we're going to reach out to them. Oftentimes now we're looping in family members, spouse, children, a child in Jersey. We have children in the Philippines or Germany or Florida, wherever they may be. Oftentimes we can, this change of condition can allow us to head off something more severe. We can say, hey, we need to get a phone call to the primary care physician, or we need
I
to
was
have.
going to say that. Do you talk to the
Yes.
doctor?
Yes, we will
Okay.
call,
Yeah, that's great
we
too.
can direct them, or sometimes we're just directing the spouse or the child to call. Again, every situation is different.
Right.
But we're doing all types of things. A lot of our clients, if they have dementia, they're more at risk of getting UTIs, which aren't that serious in and of themselves, easily
Very
treatable
serious.
with antibiotics. But the problem is if someone has cognitive decline, UTI, cognitive decline tends to work in plateaus. You're at a certain plateau for 6 or 9 months, maybe a year. Then all of a sudden we kind of drop to a lower plateau. With UTIs, what we find is when that person has UTI, their cognitive situation becomes very crazy for a week or 10 days. We get them on antibiotics. They clear the UTI, but now they drop to a new level. So we want to prevent UTIs from happening because that can slow the progression of the disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
And obviously you had mentioned too that the dementia piece is certainly something that's very heavy, of things you have to deal with. And, why we wanted to bring you on to really is tie into this housekeeping and hoarding. It's certainly an issue that comes up a lot of Project Independence, and I think understanding that correlation and kind of what to do. So I'd like to certainly get on that.
So there's definitely a link between dementia and housekeeping habits, right? Cognitive decline can, mean that the person starts to forget to clean, pay less attention to personal hygiene, and even hoarding, which they may never have done before. The brain changes caused by dementia can make it hard for individuals to plan, to organize, to complete tasks. It can also affect motivation. Someone who was always super tidy in their lives now may live in a house that's not tidy at all. So first of all, I just think understanding why that person is, not being as clean as possible can open the door to, possible solutions. There can be physical limitations. There can be vision problems, something that we haven't even talked about. But, obviously, seniors are more at risk of, macular degeneration, glaucoma, cataracts. They may not see the dirt. They may not see the clutter. Depression, again, common. We talked a little bit about that in the first segment, where someone who's been going to work for, the same job for, for 40 years now, they kind of lose their way. They lose their sense of purpose, so they can be somewhat depressed. Sometimes they lose a spouse. That can cause depression. The lack of routine, hoarding behaviors can become part of all of the, of the above. Those hoarding items can create clutter and hygiene issues, and this behavior can stem from emotional attachments to possessions and so on, fear of losing memories, cognitive impairments. So I think that's a big thing. So the way we want to help seniors with housekeeping, recognizing the challenge, I think, is the first step. And also a big part of dealing with seniors who have cognitive decline is the way we talk with them, right? We don't want to demean them. We want to kind of explain things in a way that they can understand. So sometimes that just makes things, explaining things in simpler terms, and perhaps they were able to understand.
And if hoarding is one of, you guys go into the house and you see this, where you guys go from there, obviously, I mean, there's so many different levels of hoarding, and some like you can't even, move in it. So, how would you handle
it? My social workers, I've gone into a house where a hoarding situation. I once went into a house where the entire kitchen was just piled high, like you could barely fit yourself in between newspapers. It was newspapers just stacked all over. So it was like you had to walk through like a 1 foot path, left, right, like to get to a kitchen table. And as if that wasn't bad enough, I was like, okay, well, let me look around and see what's going on here. All of a sudden, I opened up the stove, and there's newspapers on top of the stove, in the stove. So God forbid that person who has cognitive decline lights the pilot light. That house is going up like a tinderbox in literally a matter of seconds. Doesn't make a difference. You can call the fire department, dry papers. So create, an absolutely crazy situation. So the first thing we have to do is obviously we have to kind of, if possible, we need to try and remediate the hoarding situation. As I mentioned before, the different services. I work with companies that will come in and help people clean and organize and tidy. so that's the first step. I can't, you know,
Yeah, I
very
mean, it's
challenging
how,
either.
right, it's
To send,
dangerous, right?
To send my aide into a
Yeah.
situation where
Right.
there's a
That's
stove
dangerous, yeah.
loaded with newspapers is
Right.
putting them at risk.
Right,
Right.
right.
So I have to get that remediated before I can even kind of begin services. So a
Yeah.
lot of times I'm working alongside, you know, these types of services to.
You know, many thousand years ago, I believe there was a thing called Collier, the Collier
Collier
Mansion.
Brothers.
And
And then you had the Collier
and
Brothers.
it was
That was
like,
where it came.
they had
Isn't
pictures
it like
of
Fifth
this in-
Avenue? It was
Yeah,
very,
right.
very
It was in a
wealthy.
mansion
The
kind of
Collier
thing.
Brothers,
Oh.
yeah.
But it was like so stocked that there was like this much space to
Mhm.
walk through all the junk and the papers and
Yeah.
everything else that was
And
there.
as you can imagine, hoarding leads to other issues. It could lead to rodents and
Yeah,
bugs
my
and,
God.
you know, other situations
bugs
because of the,
and-
you know,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
the
I know
cleanliness.
people, frankly, you know, before the digitized world came along, I know people, and I happen to have been the executor of one of them. I had to help clean out the house, and it was, they had bills that were 20, 30 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
Copies of receipts and
Yeah.
old checks and
Yeah.
stuff that, you know, just, they couldn't get rid of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also in fairness too, because, you know, I know with, you know, my grandpa certainly had a level of, you know, it wasn't full blown hoarding, but, you know, he was a photographer. So there was so many, you know, photos and, you know, so it was a lot of those things. And like, that was his identity, right? So I was not going to come in and be like, you know, let's, you know, throw in the trash. But it was
more organized.
it was
at that
just,
point.
you know, and you really, you know, so, and in fairness, and there were so many papers, you know, so like from the mail and I, you know, we talk this all the time. It can accumulate so fast
Quickly, in a
and
week,
regularly,
right,
right?
if you don't
You
check
know,
mail
I
every
mean, all of a
day.
sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
where, and half the things are not, you know, you are online, you're not
Right.
getting hard copies, but like, all of a sudden, I'm like, I just cleaned this out, you know? So in a senior who has all these limitations, you know, it really can be so overwhelming, you know, if you don't have someone there with you going through things and kind of, you know, and I think it's very hard because, you know, the memories are so attached to so many things that you don't want to, you know, shock them or take it away from them, you know, so it really is so beneficial to have someone come in that's, you know, not emotionally invested in the situation to kind of work through it with you, you know, because
And then, as I was saying, if we can get that professional company that kind of comes in and cleans everything
get a
out,
big
now
part
we're
of
at a
it
new
done.
baseline. So now, you
Right.
know, part of the aides, you know, chores
Can
are
start
keeping
working
things
taking
through
out the
that.
garbage, clean, you know, doing some light house
Mhm.
cleaning. So hopefully that doesn't quickly rebuild up, as you were
Yeah.
just, you know, just saying, because,
Yeah.
you know, you can clean up a
yeah, right,
a
of
hoarded
course,
house,
yeah.
but if, you know, if no one else is in there, you know, that situation can build
Yeah,
right back up.
it's really and on the I love, you know, on the show we always say we have our golden nuggets, and you have some really great little tips in the article you had sent about just kind of ways to, if you are caregiving for someone that, you know, has, you know, these kind of housekeeping hoarding issues and just different things you can do.
Sure. I mean, obviously, we always start with offering support without judgment. Again, approaching the topic gently, showing understanding, as opposed to kind of like just demeaning them and kind of jamming something down their, you know, their throat, as it were. Simplifying cleaning tasks. You know, maybe breaking tasks down into a schedule so that they say, okay, you know, Monday we're going to do the kitchen, Tuesday we'll do the bathroom, you know, Wednesday we're going to clean the, you know, the dining room, something along those lines. Modifying the home environment. Again, so we talked a little bit about this. You know, there's one thing just cleaning out a hoarded situation, but even like in a normal household, you know, kind of eliminating things that might be in the way or just aren't necessary anymore to get them out of the way. Excess furniture, again, also removing loose carpeting or rugs
Oh,
that
yes,
someone could
the
slip on.
dreaded
because
throw
if-
rugs,
because
yeah.
if they're, you know, if they're fearful of slipping,
Yeah.
they, you know, they're not going to clean because they don't want
Yeah.
to take that risk.
Just a question as far as the cleaning part goes, like cleaning service. Are you basically saying you also provide like a cleaning service?
So we're not
Or-
a cleaning service, but we do light cleaning. So there's
Okay.
kind of we're not
Okay.
going to come in and scrub toilets. We're not going to, like, you know, do
Yeah,
the
you're not gonna
windows inside
vacuum
and
the
out.
whole
But
house.
we're going to take out the garbage. We're going to run the
Right.
dishwasher. We will vacuum. We'll wipe down the sinks,
Yes,
things of
yeah.
that nature. So,
Right.
you know, so light cleaning.
Mhm.
But oftentimes we will be working in conjunction with someone who's going to maybe come in, whether it's once a week or once a month, to do that
Right.
kind of
The
like
bigger-
heavy,
yeah.
hardcore cleaning
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, we kind of made a decision, my wife and I, a long time ago, that when retirement showed up, we were going to treat the house like a retirement condo, and fortunately could afford to do so.
Mhm.
And that means like the laundry, get somebody comes in every couple of weeks to clean the house.
Yeah.
You know, and if people have money, there's really nothing wrong with doing that. I
Mhm.
understand
Yeah.
money comes into the equation.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you may not want to pay somebody to come in and clean your house. But if you can afford it, there's really no reason not to do it.
Some other tools are some technology. I don't know about you guys, but I remember the vacuums that my grandparents used to have in their house. That was like a workout, pushing,
Yeah.
pushing,
The world's
pushing,
heaviest
pushing
vacuum.
that whirlpool was
Right, right.
was like, pushing the sled back and forth at the gym these days.
So true.
So, vacuums today, there's lightweight vacuums, there's upright
Yeah.
vacuums that are,
Yeah.
that are much lighter. There's robotic vacuums.
Right,
Yeah.
So
right.
you can get an iRobot, so the
right.
person doesn't even need to
Yeah.
vacuum.
Yeah.
And you can put that in and kind of set a schedule, so,
Vacuums.
things like that I think, can certainly be, be definitely tools for people.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but the tools part of it, we had, they know I'm into the technology stuff. And I really just started using smart plugs for lights. And actually, I thought, that's a lot of nonsense. But what I'm doing now is, okay, 10 o'clock, the light in the bedroom goes on, and 11 o'clock, the light in the bedroom goes off. And when you walk in there, you're not walking into the dark.
Yeah.
So there are things. Would you get involved or with some?
Absolutely. We point out to our clients and, again, the children, the spouse, we're always trying to advise on what the different possibilities are, right? We can't force anybody to do anything. We also talked about Sensi, I think the last time I was on, which is so this AI device that we have that can, audio bods that listen in and kind of help give us a better picture, because a lot of times, the children or, friends, they're not in the house. They think they know what's going on, but they're not really in the house. So that helps us determine what's really kind of going on.
Well, the last time you were on the show, we talked about that. And I think you had just started it like in July of 2023.
Correct.
Probably in one of the next shows we have with you would be to see, okay, where is that now after a year and a half or 2 years of experience?
We'd love to come back and talk to
Yeah.
you about it for sure.
Well, we
Yeah.
will. Rick.
I mean, things evolve.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Another thing that we offer people is links to different community resources.
That's great.
Oftentimes, like I have an office in Plainview. There's a JCC there. They have so many different resources that people are just not aware of.
Yeah.
There are social workers. Our JCC in Plainview is a NORC, a naturally occurring
That's how we
retirement
started.
center.
Oh, you know that.
So
That's how we were
the
born.
NORC for seniors who can't drive anymore, maybe they're not ready for our types of services, but they need help. They can't get to and from doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
So they can contact the JCC in Plainview and say, I have an appointment with Dr. So-and-so on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. The JCC has volunteers. I myself actually volunteered there for 7 years. I used to pick people up, drive them to doctor's appointments and bring them home. So, there's so many resources. And I think Paula, you mentioned this earlier, there's so many resources that are out there, easy for me to say, that people are just so not aware of. That we just have to
Project
open
Independence is one of them, of course. They provide
And
transportation.
important part of our job is connecting people to those resources
Otherwise,
and making sure they got connected.
Correct.
That's a big part of
the follow-up.
our responsibility too. Yeah.
Well, I just want to remind people to check out Right at Home Long Island's website, which is www.rightathomeli.com. And of course, you can call them at 516-719-5999. Such a huge resource. I mean, there's really, even, we've had you on the show so many times, and just, I feel like I learned something new each time, which is really great, and just shows why it's so important to have this show and get the resource out there, right? We're doing a service to connect people to all the community resources out there as well, which is just so huge.
Well, I think consistency, as Paula points out, and trust are major factors in a lot of things we do in life. And,
And the bigger organization of Right at Home, they do a lot of continuing education.
We do.
Right?
We have.
I've taken many, and they're no cost.
Yes,
We all share them, all the social workers.
Yes,
We
I
need
email.
our. we need-
Yes, I said that. Yeah.
I think
and
we currently
Andrea,
do, I think 10 or 11
Yes,
months, 10 or 11 months
I've
a year.
taken many, and
We
they're
have
wonderful.
1 hour webinars.
They're
So they're
excellent.
free to everybody.
So thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate them. For our
That's right.
continuing education.
Well, we would like to
Credits.
thank our guest today, Greg Balbera, CSA, owner certified senior advisor, Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk, about seniors and housekeeping and just all things senior. You were about our little guru today, our aging guru. We would like to thank everyone today who listened and joined us. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.